Greetings, fellow mortals, and welcome back to the Warlock YouTube channel. My name is Skylar. After other Warlocks gather power while I gather internet cringe. And wouldn't you know it, I'm back to salt content. And unfortunately for a lot of you, my first subject is not Harmon Smith. Which honestly should be surprising for everyone, because, yeah, I don't like Harmon. But as much as I don't like Harmon, oh, my next target is pretty interesting to say the least. Because what my next target is, because right now, this person happens to hate what is considered the backbone of the gaming industry, which is indie games. So, yeah, let's just say this is not going to end well. At least in terms of me potentially not crashing the fuck out. But yeah, with all that being said, let's get into it.
Don't cry, little monster. Uncle Monger's got enough carrot puree to feed you your entire...
Bros showing off indie games that I have never even heard of. They all look like boomer shooters, don't get me wrong, but I've never heard of them. And he's saying that's... oh, Lord.
Life. Jerry, sir, bring over the feed hose ASAP. The boy's hungry.
There has been a noticeable decline in the gaming industry in terms of both quality and the returns that the publishers are getting. Unless you're...
yeah, that's the AAA industry, mind you. And those two are both AAA games. Point.
Fortnite, that is. Every other studio, they're getting layoffs to hell and back. Epic Games, however, riding high on K-pop Demon Hunters collaborations. There's gonna be a
Okay, do not shit on K-pop Demon Hunters. It's actually a good movie. Anyway, moving on.
time where I tell my son that there used to be a very short period of roughly 1 year where there were no crossovers in Fortnite. They had to get a bootleg John Wick for a skin in Fortnite until the real John Wick showed up. With everything becoming complete garbage as of late, either that or just being way too expensive for my wallet, many people naturally take to the comment section saying, play indie games instead. Now let me preface, there are absolutely indie games that I am really cool with, I really enjoy. If you recently picked up Gravity Circuit because it was free on Epic Games, I absolutely recommend it, especially if you like Mega Man or Mega Man X. It is definitely a retread of the Mega Man.
Well, the thing is, you are recommending a indie game that is inspired by, well, you know, that is inspired by, you know, Mega Man, just like every other indie game. But you know.
And games, just that your character that you're playing as is a melee focused character. Now, as I say that, I am definitely prefacing that it is a pixel platformer, which definitely harkens back to the 8-bit or 16-bit era. That may be a sticking point because it seems like for the longest time, the indie market has been oversaturated with such games. This makes sense considering 2D platformers and pixel art are much easier to develop and get a very quick turnaround time, but it seems like it really just exploded once Shovel Knight came onto the scene. In the late 2010s, it seemed like just about every single indie game was either a 2D platformer, a roguelike, a card game. They're still making all of those, even in the mid 2020s. Yes, so 2025. We're now in the mid 2020s. If this video gets 500 likes, I'll actually play Balatro. Also, you can't forget visual novels and dating sims.
When does this game get fucking good?
Even the Game Grumps were trying to get in on that dating sim craze. As time went by,
You're shitting on dating. What's the fucking point of this video? I know you're saying that you hate indie games, so what the fuck
We were gonna be looking past the 80s nostalgia, because at this point 80s nostalgia has become so oversaturated. We have been living through 80s nostalgia longer than the 80s as a decade. Stranger Things basically built that entire show on 80s nostalgia, and it's still not wrapped up yet. Indie games
It's about to wrap up, but anyway.
began to grow as well. Instead of 2D platformers, we get 3D platformers inspired by the N64 era, and we also get horror games inspired by the PS1 era. Oh yeah, and don't you forget boomer shooters.
Don't you dare shit on Ultra Kill. That is actually a fun game.
Remember old Doom and Wolfenstein? Well, here's a first-person shooter, but it looks like you're on drugs. Whoa, is that wacky? People will look at you dead in the eyes and tell people that they should play this game instead of Call of Duty or
Yeah, you should play Ultra Kill than Call of Duty because unlike COD, Ultra Kill is not going to take all your money.
Battlefield. Battlefield's probably
I've been hearing shit about Battlefield with their whole okay, talking about Battlefield 6 now. Let's see here. Oh yeah, the whole banning for no reason thing. That should be a reason to not play Battlefield, but you know, just me.
a better example at this point, because I heard that they actually released a good game. Good job, EA, you actually did it. So it seems like we now have the opposite issue of indie games of old, where the art direction wasn't necessarily the point, but it was pixel, it worked, and it usually revolved around an interesting gameplay dynamic that they brought to the table. But now it just seems like indie games, in order to stand out above all the slop, have to invest so much and have
You're seriously calling Ultra Kill slop? Look, you can not like indie games, but here's the big thing. A storefront lives or dies, and I'm quoting censored in the Saltmire communities on this. A storefront lives or dies depending on both third-party and indie support. That is it.
having a coherent style and standing out above the rest of the slop that's out on Steam, that they just completely forget to make a decent game on top of that. Yes, this video was absolutely inspired by Twitter videos that went viral because an indie developer decided to share their game, and everybody all in unison realized, wow, your game sucks.
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap.
Yeah, that game looks like shit, but you're literally making a 10-minute video talking about why you hate indie games because of one game.
I've ever seen.
Oh my god, that was an abomination. That was awful.
That's the beauty of Twitter. The fact that your video can go viral because of other people shitting on it. The secondary inspiration for this video was how Silk Song, the much anticipated sequel.
Oh boy, this is where you're going to lose your audience. This is where you're probably going to lose some people, but I'm going to hear you out.
The Hollow Knight was so hyped up, most hyped game of the decade.
Yeah, because it took so long and not to mention it was turned from a DLC to its own damn game because of how long it took. But as I said, go on, start talking.
Up until the new GTA releases. All for it to just be glazed for being $20, and then
yeah, surprising that a $20 game somehow managed, mind you, to beat out. No. Here's the thing, dude. Manic the Manic. Please tell me that the first part is Manic and not Manic, because if it's Manic the Manic Mechanic, I like the alliteration, but I don't like it at the same time. It's going to end up turning into a tongue twister. But guess what? This $20 game that you're shitting on, that has fucking Souls-like inspired combat, guess what? It broke all three. No. It broke Steam. It broke Nintendo. It broke PlayStation. It broke Xbox. and it broke Steam.
Now it's already faded into irrelevancy. One
No, I don't think it's faded into irrelevancy, but whatever.
month after launch. When the game was coming out, the best thing that people had to say
My guy, people are saying that this game is that Silksong could be Game of the Year. You are sounding like Harmon Smith when it comes to saying that a game is irrelevant. Like, it's in the Game of the Year conversation, just like Baldur's Gate 3 was, just like Elden Ring was, just like Expedition 33 is. So
about it is that it was only $20. But compared to the original game, there really wasn't all that much going for it. For some quick
oh my god, I haven't even played the original Hollow Knight, but I know there was a lot going for Silksong. Continue.
thoughts about Silksong, speaking in broad strokes, as somebody who beat it in less than a week, it is
You beat it in less than a week. So you basically rushed through it and didn't actually pay attention to the world or anything. Gotcha. You do realize you're playing an RPG, right?
one of the most disappointing sequels I have ever played. It's one of those games that makes me reflect on my time playing the original game and wondering if it was even good in the first place. That is how bad the new Hollow Knight
Oh my god, people are gonna rip you to shreds. Anyway.
Silksong game is. For the entire first act, and yes, this game is split up into acts, the map is just an
Because it's an RPG? No shit, it's split into acts? Oh my god. Oh my god.
inferior version of the original Hollow Knight, with none of the charm. Bile Water is one of the worst areas in any video game I have ever played. The fact that when you're traveling up in Bile Water, chances are you're going in blind because you have to go very deep in just to get the map. And that's on top of
Gee, it's rewarding you to explore. Why are you complaining that a game is rewarding you for exploration? Jesus Christ on a stick. Like, there's no way you can be this dumb to not realize that an RPG can and will fucking reward you for exploring.
of having to do a puzzle just to access a bench all the way up there.
Exploration and rewarding you for work.
And if you don't do that, then you're going to do a massive run back. Which, if you don't like boss run backs, then Hollow Knight Silksong just isn't the game for you, friend.
Because it's a Souls-like. You fucking...
Frankly, the game does get much better once you reach Act 2. And when I say much better, I'm saying it is great. It's actually a good video game for once. But the unfortunate part of that is that Act 2 is so deep into the game and is so very little of the content of the game. If Team Cherry
This dude.
leaned in much more to what they were doing with Act 2 as opposed to Act 1, then I actually respect this game. Because Act 2 is not only good, but it's original and stands out much more from the
This is a sequel to I do not need to continue repeating myself. Jesus.
original Hollow Knight. But unfortunately, you have to get through roughly the first 70% of the game just to access it. So, is it exactly worth it?
Or, hear me out, instead of looking at the negative, maybe you could look at the positives of it being a genuinely good RPG. You spent... Jesus Christ.
And before you come at me saying that the third act is so good, I don't want to 100% a game just to unlock the final act, especially if I'm not enjoying it. And also, according to the Steam achievements, it seems like only 1 in 8 people actually bothered to get the true ending 100%.
Probably because 1 in 8 people actually wanted to play the game and complete the game. Like, complete it.
I don't care. I beat the final boss. The final boss was very mediocre. Like, how are you going to?
Wow, you sound. I'm not gonna say you sound like me because I would love to go back to playing South Park: The Stick of Truth, just to unlock every, just to do try to get everything done. But yeah, I'm done with that game, and I don't really want to try 100%ing it because it seems to just be a good long while. But another thing is, guess what? I also played Baldur's Gate 3. I have yet to 100% that game because A, I've modded the ever-living fuck out of all my playthroughs, except for the one for YouTube. Plug. Selfless plug. Well, shameless plug, anyway. But also the fact that if I were to unmod BG3 and do a bona fide run, I would still not find everything. Like, Silksong is an RPG, and RPGs are meant to be replayable.
To have a like Dark Souls 2 level bullshit level of challenge and then have the easiest boss ever at the very end. I am so sick and tired of combat inspired by Dark Souls. And
You're tired of Souls-likes. Then it sounds like you're not a fan of Souls-likes.
has even infected indie games. It doesn't help that even the AAA market has been oversaturated with Souls likes. But even in a Metroidvania,
It has not? I'm sorry, but the AAA industry only has FromSoft in terms of doing Souls-likes. What other AAA game did Souls-like? My guy.
which in of itself is an oversaturated genre, you get the Souls-like elements. At least
So you hate Metroidvania style and fucking Souls-like games. Okay, you have your own style. Why are you complaining that a indie game made by 3 people has Souls-like mechanics on top of being a Metroidvania?
at least when indie games do it, it's a funny crab that you're playing as.
That was only one game.
Just imagine being Elden Ring, releasing the most mid DLC ever, and get
Wow, a lot of people would definitely want... Wow, you sound like Harmon. You sound like Harmon Smith, my good... Well, I'm not going to say my good sir, but... Why are you sounding like Harmon when you say that Souls... You said that Shadows of the Earth Tree is mid. That is a very Harmon Smith sounding fuck. King, whatever. Jesus.
getting nominated for Game of the Year. And then also imagine being like China.
Okay, yeah, I did not like the fact that Shadows of the Earth Tree was nominated for Game of the Year, but it's a DLC. The hell are you going to do? But are you seriously shitting on Black Myth Wukong as well?
Chinese slop and also getting nominated for Game of the Year. A literal deal.
Yeah. Because it was a good game? The fuck you mean Chinese slop? Oh my god.
DLC and China slop was next to Balatro and Astrobot, and it doesn't.
Yeah, next to a indie game about playing poker and a 3D platformer in a time where PlayStation needed a W desperately. And this was honestly a good W for PlayStation. And it also reminds us that PlayStation has a lot of IPs that they've forgotten about. Anyway.
Even matter how many Chinese bots there were because Astrobot, the superior game, got Game of the Year. The age of the Souls-likes is dead now. Now it's time for the age of 3D platformers.
Are you seriously mad that we're going to get that there's a possibility of more 3D platformers coming because of Astrobot. Sounds like you just don't like gaming in general.
AAAs are jumping off 3D platformers again now. We're finally getting some more 3D platformers that aren't from Nintendo or Crash Bandicoot. But to end off this whole video, let's talk about one 3D platformer inspired by Banjo-Kazooie, which raised a lot of money on Kickstarter, but ended up completely falling flat, becoming a huge disappointment in the process. That game being Yooka-Laylee, which released back in 2017 in the huge 3D platform.
Never actually heard of this game until I saw this video.
Platformer revival. It had a lot of competition such as A Hat in Time and Super Mario Odyssey, not to mention the recent remakes of the Crash Bandicoot games. And Yooka-Laylee was worse than all of them. There's a reason those games are fondly remembered where Yooka-Laylee is not. The Kickstarter promised getting the band back together that made the original Banjo-Kazooie games. And I made a very controversial aside in a completely unrelated video, which is my favorite thing to do, by the way. Like, I make a video on iDubbbz and most of the comments are about my trashing of Banjo-Kazooie. And yes, just to completely explain the joke to the 3 comments that addressed it, me using the box art of Nuts and Bolts was the joke, because that's considered the bad one. Nonetheless, people are very big fans of Banjo-Kazooie games, especially if you're a millennial. Well, considering that original game that came out back...
I'm not a millennial, I've never played a Banjo-Kazooie game, but also, dude, everyone, you spent about half of your video talking shit about Silksong and Souls-likes. You are much more unstructured than me.
Back in 2017, didn't have enough time to cook in the oven. The guys at Platonic Games were like, let's just release the same game but remake it. Let's remake a game from 2017 and then sell it, which I must say,
Sounds like a Sony. It sounds like a Sony. Something Sony would do. Oh wait, they did it. They fucking did that with The Last of Us Part 2.
is very hilarious how the whole premise of the game is that the original game was not good enough, so they had to just make it again. I must give credit where credit's due because that is completely shameless and I am all here for it. It's so funny how the developers have not even released a game since 2019. So in their entire roughly decade run as a studio, they made one game that's 3D, one game that's 2D, and they remade the original 3D game. How is every single developer coming victim to just longer and longer development cycles? Are you telling me that this Borderline Definitive Edition is taking longer to come out than the original game at all? Yeah, now I'm completely not surprised that Platonic Games had layoffs. I mean, that is what happens when you don't release a game for 6 years and then all your games that are available go on sale for like $3. I don't know, maybe they should have considered adding JonTron back into the game. Maybe then I would consider playing it.
我有自己嘅原則，我就唔想成世俾人撳住嚟打。你好中意同人慳咩？衰咗3年，我等一個機會慳咩？我就唔想成世俾人撳住嚟打。
You... Okay, that was... I want to say this video was unstructured, but at the same time... Actually, no, yeah, it was unstructured. Dude, you spent... I was looking forward to your criticism of the indie game scene. Like, yeah, I'm not happy that you decided to shit talk Ultra Kill of all indie games as an example of a Doom-esque shooter, because let's just say Ultra Kill is actually good. But that does not mean that you... Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. But yeah, I'm gonna just say this. Is the fact that you spent almost half of your damn video talking about Souls-likes and Silksong. Dude, actually structure your fucking video. And I hope I never have to cover you again. I would much rather cover Harmon. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. And if you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And, you know, keep an eye out for when I potentially do more Baldur's Gate 3 and D&D guide videos. I really need to get back to that. But also keep an eye out for when I start doing videos talking about the WoW Midnight Beta, because that's coming out soon. I'm excited. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed. And as I said, please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.